I'm excited. Well, this is, matter of fact, this brings to the end of the month close for clergy appreciation. And what my desire is, I know in time past we have done different things within the area of clergy to, we've done things such as different little, I think, breakfasts or dinner areas or so forth, so on. And this year, I don't believe we have approached or did any of those direct things. But what I want to do because of 2020 that's coming, when we come into October of next year, I want us to be able to, we're going to have some insight on celebrating in a different level, on a different level when it comes to this Clergy Appreciation Month. I believe that by the time that we get through with what God is putting on my spirit for 2020, and I started this a couple of months ago, we pretty well have been speaking of we're doing great things in 2019, and now we're talking about vision for 2020. And so as we are approaching 2020, I started early so that we can start getting ourselves prepared, getting our spirit man prepared. And where we're getting ready to go, we're getting ready to reach the area on a massive of what I believe God wants us to reach within people. I want to, first of all, before I take and go into where I'm going, we stopped 2 weeks ago with Terry Nance's book that I was going to use some inserts on dealing with God's armor bearer. And I was talking about how this is a great book, but at the same time, I was bringing it forth from more of a perspective of a more so predominant black congregation. Although his book is universal, it's a good book for anyone to be able to view. But when you're dealing with an ethnic group of people, there's things in background that you know more so better than someone that may be of that opposite race. And so as doing that, I've been speaking about things such as some of the things in there talking about communication. It's talking about working together. It's a whole lot of great things. But one of the things that I'm looking at as of now, I started having people to speak on supporting the vision and the visionary. And I wanted everyone to get opportunity to speak simply for the fact that it would allow us to hear, which they had done an outstanding job. So first of all, let's give a hand praise for those speakers. But in many cases and instances, even though they done outstanding, as I sit back, you know, a teacher, those that are educators, lift your hand up. Okay, so if y'all ever notice in class, sometimes you come forth to see where your student is at, and every now and then you give what? What type of pop quiz? A pop quiz is something you're not really prepared for. It's just popped up on you. They give it to just see, did you catch it? It's not to fail you. When you do a pop quiz, Karen, you still active in the school system. Do you fail the student off a pop quiz? It just lets you see where they're at. Now, when it's a real quiz, that's when you grade it. But the pop quiz lets you see how attentive and what's been taking place. Well, this area of supporting the visionary was a pop quiz. It's simply to see the mindset of where it is that we are at. Now, here's the thing. Our vision, perfection of the saints for the work of the ministry, the sign of the body of Christ. But we're Christian, providing outreach, education, rehabilitation, soul saving by applying and proclaiming God's word while making a difference through Jesus Christ. And so through that, our motto, study to show thyself approved to God, workman need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. But when we're dealing with that, first of all, we are Christians and we do what? Provide outreach. We provide education, rehabilitation, and rehabilitation is what I'm going to be focusing on. Most people think rehabilitation is dealing with, most times you hear that, you think about drugs, alcohol, or someone it's a difference between rehabilitation and basically physical therapy. They both habilitate, but it's still a little different because, you got different categories. You even have to look it up different ways as far as if you're looking for someone that have broke a limb and so forth, they going through a therapy, but it's also rehabilitation. But when you're dealing with spiritual matters, there's a whole different outlook. So here it talks about rehabilitation, soul saving. By what? Applying, proclaiming what? God's word. And through this process, most time we as people, when we think about vision, we think about stuff. A vision for your household, a vision for your family, a vision for your job, a vision. When you start thinking about, and it's natural, we think about things. If you start talking about, oh, when I get married, I want to, you don't say when I get married, I want my husband to, when you're not in Christ, or you're not talking about, I want us to pray every night. Before we eat our meal, we're going to bless the Lord at all times. And, oh, I can't wait till now lay me down to sleep. We kneel at the same time. We praying. Now, you're not thinking that. You're talking about vacations, holidays, and wanting to go on trips and do great things. And not only just 2019, but through life. So that's how we think. And so as I observe the area, and we have had mixtures of individuals speaking about this area, soul saving, so forth, so on. But a lot of times when we think vision, we start thinking of things that been spoke of previously. Because basically the Bible said that the end time, God going to pour his spirit upon all flesh. Old men dream dreams, young men have vision, so forth, so on. Well, when you start talking vision here at Jesus Peace, we have talked about credit unions. We've talked about townhouses, condominiums, with all of this stuff. And it's amazing that God would tell Abraham that he's going to make him a father of many nations, and at the time he tell him that, he got a wife that's not barren. Well, we talked about credit unions and so forth, and since we talked about it, I've needed credit. We talked about townhouses and all that stuff, and then you be talking about, hey, I want to keep my house. You know, you got stuff that God will give you, don't mean the vision won't come to pass. He said, though the vision, what? Tarry. He said, do what? Wait on it. So what God has spoken is going to come to pass. But here's the thing. I spoke on Thursday night about how Hezekiah, whenever he was not as concerned with the building of the temple, he got more concerned with the building of the people. Because he said, if I fix the broken building and the people are broke, he said, then there's not going to make a difference, because that's basically what we say, the cart ahead of the horse. But if I fix the people will fix the temple. If I take and fix broken people will fix the broken church. And so the mindset is that we have to take, and I'm just setting foundation for where I'm going. The mindset is that we have to take and fix people. But if I'm talking vision but don't focus people, I'm talking truth. I'm giving what's been said. I'm talking supporting the vision that the visionary has spoken. But our mission is not impossible, as the movies say. Our mission is reachable. And so our mission is, we are who? We are Christians. What do? We are to provide outreach, education, rehabilitation, soul saving. But how I'm going to do this and I don't even want to go out and witness? How I'm going to do this here and I don't want to even. It's one thing to go out and support another church engagement that I have. But you don't have to witness. You ain't trying to reach a soul. You're just coming to church, which is to get taught, education, so forth. But you're already saved. So we're supposed to be reaching other souls to get them saved. So when we start looking at doing these things, that means we got to do something from in here. And so it's talked about, and you do it by applying and proclaiming God's word. Not your thoughts, not your ideologies, but God's word. And so the Lord been dealing with me real strongly here recently in the arena of the harvest. And he said, pray and I'll send you laborers and to be to help with the harvest. But the thing about it is, you got to first plant a seed to get a harvest. And you got to be able to cultivate that seed. You got to be able to dung it. You got to be able to first dig it and make it grow. You got to be able to work with it. And when people come to God's house, we got to be prepared to work with them, because it's going to be the people that grow the ministry. Because why is God going to send us laborers and there's no harvest? So let's look at what we got to start doing. And And when we start talking about in next October, Ministerial Appreciation Month, we're not going to just be talking about it and celebrating on the behalf of to sit down and get a meal. You can do that at IHOP by yourself. We're going to do something that I believe by then the mindset and the creative spiritual juices going to come together on a different celebration level. And it may still center around us fellowshipping, breaking bread, but on a different level. So I don't want nobody mind wondering and running, trying to put something together at this point. Because I believe by the time we get back here by next year, prior to, that you have a different mindset on the celebration. Because what good is it to just keep eating and wind up with the same mentality? So as we begin to look at, that's Brother Grant over there. Hey, Brother Grant, good to see you. Amen. Amen. As we begin to look at this scripture, Hebrews 13, 11 through 13, Exodus 29, 10 through 14. Karen, if you would, let's read those areas. Then we're going to jump direct into where I'm going.
For the bodies of those beasts whose blood is brought into the sanctuary by the high priest for sin are burned without the camp. Wherefore Jesus also, that he might sanctify the people with his own blood, suffered without the gate.
For the bodies of those beasts, and before Jesus came, all areas of cleansings and sacrifices was done through beasts whose blood is brought into the sanctuary by the high priest. There was someone assigned to do it, but somebody had to bring the beast. Someone had to bring the animal. The priest's job was to take care of it in the order that God had said, but somebody had to get it to the church. And so it said, whose blood is brought into the sanctuary by the high priest for sin. The whole area was God would put in a petition. He would petition the people to take and follow an order so that they could be covered till Jesus come. So here, the high priest was to take, and he was the one who was to carry out the ceremonial process in order for the people to be cleansed. Okay, then it said, wherefore Jesus also, that he might sanctify the people. So now it's no longer by an animal that you got to continue to bring. Can you imagine the day if everybody had to bring some kind of animal in here? You got some stubborn animals. And you got to rope around some, and you got to bring them, and they can't have spot, wrinkle, or blemish, any of that. So it says that he might sanctify the people with his own blood, suffered without the gate. Outside the gate means that he was basically on Calvary, outside the church. In other words, they'll bring the beast outside the church, and the cleansing process the priest had to handle inside the church. Jesus got crucified outside the church, but yet he got crucified by church people. So it's the church that's supposed to bring the sacrifice. Okay, but we'll deal with that another time. I want to keep on point. Continue.
Let us go forth, therefore, unto him without the camp, bearing his reproach.
Okay, Exodus 29, 10 through 14.
You are to present the bull at the front of the tent of meeting.
The title of this message is From Process to Procedure to Development. These scriptures don't sound like the direction I'm going in, but it is for the direction I'm going in. So I will come forth in a moment to give it to you more simplified instead of the complexity of these scriptures. So it said you are to present the bull at the front of the tent of meeting. I thought about one time calling this lead the bull at the front door. But instead I'm going to call it From Process to Procedure to Development. But how many times we come to God's house with a bunch of bull? But we're going to keep going because I want to stay totally focused on what we have. Continue, Karen.
And Aaron and his sons are to put their hands on the head of the bull. You are to kill the bull before the Lord at the entrance to the tent of meeting, and take some of the blood of the bull and put it on the horns of the altar with your finger.
So the sacrifice had to go through some stuff, and the sacrifice had to be brought into church. You got to sacrifice before you ever come into church. There's a cost before you ever come up in here. Okay, continue.
All the rest of the blood you are to pour out at the base of the altar. You are to take all the fat that covers the entrails and the lobe that is above the liver and the 2 kidneys and the fat that is on them and burn them on the altar. But the meat of the bull, its skin and its dung, you are to burn up outside the camp. It is a purification offering.
Okay. God had just made Aaron and his sons garments and consecrated them. During this process, there was something God was doing. Moses had just come down off the mountain, and God is establishing a new structure and a new order. And people of God at this point is dancing naked before the golden calf while Moses is on the Mount of God. Isn't it amazing? They had just got delivered. They had just got set free. And the Bible said that they got naked. I mean, they got just booty butt naked, as we would say. And they're dancing before a golden calf after they had just been delivered. Now, before you get judgmental, we're going to walk this message through, because there's many times that God do stuff for us and just deliver us from something, and we find ourselves in another situation. These people was in bondage. And I'm not trying to defend sin, but I'm trying to help us to see clear in 2020. Because God is getting ready to send some individuals that we're going to have to minister to. I was getting my phone yesterday, and while I was at the counter, young man, a handsome young man, brother, nice haircut, and I mean, look, you know, one of these brothers that a single woman would love to talk with. And it was another guy on the counter over here, and another young lady. And so as I was sitting down, he was speaking to the other guy on the counter, and he said, "Did you get my number?" He said, "Yeah, I got it." He said, "Well, you ain't used it yet." You know, so it wasn't long before I picked up that, you know, something going on there. And so as we were talking, the guy was very knowledgeable. He helped me out with some different discounts on my phones, because I thought I wouldn't have to use my insurance in order to pay for the cracked screen before they can do the update. He said, "Well, I'm going to help you out. This is your day. You got the right person." And so it was ironic, and it was real funny, because Jeremiah here is my grandson. Jeremiah, you remember we had, and it's amazing you could prophesy something. Jeremiah, we was at my granddaughter, I didn't have a ticket. I brought them ticket, took them to the state fair, and so I didn't buy tickets. I wasn't going to ride anything. I went for one purpose: take them and eat. That was my purpose. Well, as one got ready to ride, they wouldn't let her. She was a little bit too short for that particular ride. And so I told him, I said, "Well," I said, "I'll tell you what, come on." I said, "Well, we'll fix this here." Won't long, the lady had us go on the line, Jeremiah. They said, "What did you do?" I said, "I winked at her." I said, I winked at her and kind of smiled a little bit, and she said, "Go on in." Is that right, Jeremiah? Didn't she let him in? So I kind of, you know, I felt the spirit on me, and I need to get my baby in there. So I kind of winked at her. You know, so she said, "Go ahead, just go ahead." She smiled, and I smiled. So Jeremiah said, "So Papa, so if you took and you had to get in like that, and you just off a smile, what if it was a man?" I would have said, "Hey, guy, can I?" And so we laughed about it, you know. We just laughed about that. Is that not so, Jeremiah? We had just did that there. I didn't know that a few hours later, I'm going to be in this situation. But I didn't say no, "Hey, guy," none of that kind of stuff. But I was there, and I was presenting myself, you know, the way that I ought to present myself as a man and a man of God and so forth, so on. And they carrying on a conversation that was just pure. It was a gay conversation. But guess what? People going to come to church that's gay. And you got to be able to handle them. Matter of fact, he did a good job of what he did, saved me some money and so forth. He said, "I know you're going to take me to lunch." well, no. I said, I tell you what I do. I said, what you eat at? They said, I eat right up here at the McGrady, whatever the place is right around the corner, I think McGrady and whatever it may be. Anyway, long story short, and I ain't going to names so nobody know who I'm talking about or anything as such. I said, well, here's what I do. I said, I'll tip you, give you a tip. So that he's, he jumped up, did a little dance. I said, so that way you can, go grab some lunch on me. Well, it's only nice to be nice. If I was at a restaurant, I would have tipped a waitress or a waiter. And so he saved me some money, so I tipped him. And it was just funny because he took the money and handed it for the camera and said, see, this from a tip. I'm not taking nothing out the register because I need to get some change. But at the same time, I need to be a witness. So I also was able to get my card and say, hey, well, have you ever, if you go to church? No, not really, this, that, that. I said, well, hey, I'm a pastor, so forth. So if you ever want to come to church, you got to be a witness. I know who I am. I know what I am. And so I don't have an issue being, the Bible says the sick in need of the physician. And so if I would have said, I don't want to be in this counter. Let me go down here because this, that, the other. Just because you're in front of a female, that don't mean you don't know what their lifestyle may be. And so when are we going to look beyond the surface and start seeing souls? And so I was looking at soul. And he may come to church, he may not come to church. But at the same time, I got to be about God's business. So now, these people have been in bondage for 400 years, but still had a covenant with God. But they had become totally polluted by their environment and association and cultures. That's this generation. Our generation, if you was a homosexual or lesbian or gay, they would get you in the bathroom and beat you up. Get you in the locker room, beat you up. Anybody remember those days? But now, they even trying to get bathrooms assigned with people of lifestyle. And so things have changed. And lots of people that were beating up folks, some of them was in the closet. Some of them had battles and issues that they couldn't talk about or deal with. Some of them needed deliverance themselves, but it was a cover. Anybody ever had to cover up something? It's a cover up every Sunday we come to church. Because if God would have taken and called us out right now and say, I'm going to flash this on the screen, some of us be, oh, Lord, oh, no, Jesus, please don't. Not today. This ain't the right Sunday for that. And so some stuff we go through, and God is dealing with us. And if the church going to take and reach people, we got to be able to reach all kind of people. He said, I'll make you fisher of men. He didn't say you're going to just catch flounder. Some of you going to catch catfish, blowfish, groupers, all kinds of sharks. I hate some frogfish. Anybody ever caught them? Those are like the blow. If you catch them, they just blow. Can't stand them, but they part of the fish family. And so God have told you you'll be a fisher of men, but you don't know what you're going to catch. Look at your neighbor and ask, what type fish are you? Some of you might be beside a big mouth bass today. Some of you might be by a grouper. They only operate with groups. Some of you may be a sawfish, always taking and cutting stuff apart and causing trouble. Some of you a catfish, always eating a bunch of mess at the bottom of something. So all of this here, he never told you what type you're going to catch. Some of you is a fantail fish. Every time you look around, you in the midst of, I can't use, I said that, I better not use it there. Anyway, some of you is a fish. So in the process of this, here's where you are. 400 years of bondage, if I would. They got a covenant with God, but they have become totally polluted by their environment and association and culture. There are some things you bring with you that will pollute you if you don't detach yourself from it. Bringing your negative experience to church, feeling like you came to church and shouted, but it didn't work. Anybody ever felt like that? I came to church, I shouted, but it didn't work, like it's an on and off button. Faith without works is dead, the scripture says. And they said, let patience have its perfect works. You danced and you gave your best seed and felt like it didn't work the next day. Saying, after all that I still did, all I did in church, all of that I did, I still didn't get the job. I came to church. I gave that offering. The preacher told me if I sow a seed, gets fertile ground, and God will bless. And I did that and went to put in the area of paperwork, still didn't get the job. But I got a question for you. Did you go back to school to get the degree for the job? Did you dress for success? Did you get someone who knew resumes to look at your contents, your grammar, your punctuation, and so on? Did you go up in there chewing gum and just out of bed and you wrinkled and you just caught the bus and you're running late and you're like, I'm glad I made it. Who's Mr. Johnson? I'm applying for this job. You got to overlook me. I got up late. Did you take time to make sure you look good, smells good? Got your resume typed up, not on a, hey, I'm sorry, you got to overlook this. I know I got it on a napkin, but. So lots of time we asking God for stuff that we hadn't prepared to get even the proper response of an answer. Not that God can't work miracles, but at the same time, would you hire that person? When it comes down to delivering people, it's not just spiritual. That's why it bothers me when people are so spiritual till they're no earthly good. See, the church got a mentality of just spirituality in church. Carnality to spirituality is a process. It doesn't just happen overnight. Example, a baby coming out of the womb. The baby is attached to an umbilical cord. And when you start dealing with that umbilical cord, being cut, it's stages. If you will leave the baby hooked to the cord after it's born, what's going to happen? Both of you going to die. See, what happened? Well, the placenta going to come out and it's going to get gone anyway. But anyway, that's technical. But the bottom line is this. That baby, they cut it close, then they take and twist it up because it's going to soon dry up and fall off. They don't do nothing, but it just falls. Or you wake up one morning and there go the cord. Because that's designed in a process. With that baby get to breathe underwater, get nourishment, take care of all this little droppings and all the stuff that happens. I mean, everything that's hooked. It's a stage. Now when it come out the womb, that baby come out the womb, and you automatically sit up in a baby chair and start making it eat fried chicken. Collard greens. As good as Ronald Holiday collard greens is, bottom line is a baby just born not going to be able to eat them. That baby's born and it has to get on, the Bible call it sincere milk. It have to be, it comes out the womb, it can't stand a lot of light, it can't stand, it's a baby, it's crying, it's stages. And you get on stages of what they call, when a baby is born, they, what do y'all call it? They timing, whenever they, what? Now, well, whenever they feeding time. Yeah, schedule, there you go. So they got a schedule. And that schedule changes as they get older. They require certain sleep. They sleep forever, seem like, and then they start gradually being woke. Some of these big babies, 25, 30 years old, you want them to go back to sleep. Just sleep. Take your rest. But at the same time, these babies, they take and they start changing. It's a process. They stop eating. They can't take milk forever. You have to start then putting a little bit of cereal in the formula. It's a formula, y'all. And then from there, they start taking and get them some baby food. Some like that little sweet carrot. Some like those little peas. And some like all that stuff. Have you ever ate baby food now and you taste it? My God. But the baby is processed. And so that's all the baby know. So guess what? If that's all you knew, then it tastes good. But until anybody ever went from margarine to butter? Put it this way, poor folks used to have margarine all the time. People with money had butter. That's why I would say parquet, butter. It was close to it. And butter had a different taste from margarine. You had to get an acquired taste for butter, which means you had to get used to it, which means you wasn't used to it. Anybody ever had caviar, fish eggs? It's expensive, but it's acquired taste. That's where you take that significant person that got that high taste bud, and you say, I'll have some caviar, and you get some crackers, and you just pay $80 for a little jar, and you put a little bit on there, and you eat nothing but fish. And it's acquired taste. Once you're up in that bracket, you'll get used to that. But when you complaining about the price of, Captain Jerry's, you ain't going to be eating fish eggs. And so it's a process. Everything have a process to it. That baby become, after a while, crawling, certain age, then you start giving it table food. Okay, the baby don't want no baby food after they dealt with table food. Anybody ever had a dog that was brought up on dog food till you gave them human food? Then they did not want their dog food. You've been used to that doggone food all along till you got a different taste. It's the same way it's processed. It didn't happen overnight. Now that baby is no longer eating baby food, it's now eating real food. That's the same way it is with sin, y'all. It takes us a while to get from level to level, to come out of it, to quit. So now, and I'm going somewhere with this, what we have to realize, detachment is a process. You cannot birth that baby if you don't cut the cord. We are forever metamorphosing, even going through a transition. That's why when you change, in other words, if you were to change your clique right now, they won't like you. You think you something else. When Angela stopped hanging out with us because she started going to church, and we was all partying every Saturday and Sunday, you remember that was our hangout. Yeah, and Angela, I'm talking, she changed. You were still partying, keeping me corrupt. Pray for a church. But Angela changed. You know what we said? She thinks she can't drink no more. Been drinking. She can't party with us no. Well, we don't dance the way you dance no more. So she got out our clique. How dare her? She had the house that we would party at. Now she done cut loose, and now she get all these church folks. Now she got church clothes. So you'll start cutting people off when they no longer in your clique. Even if you stop gossiping, they'll start gossiping about you. So now you can't, if you say, look, let's just pray for her. So now you too good. All the stuff you used to talk about her, now you too good to take and say. That's how people, they don't want to see you change. And because God is progressive, he's calling you to move, and that's why you aren't where you used to be if you heed to his call to move. How many of you know you done changed? You ain't completely changed, but there's stuff you used to do you don't do no more. Places you used to go, you don't go no more. So all of this stuff is a progressive change, and you don't call anybody that you don't want to stay where they are. In other words, if I would say, Jeremiah, come here for a moment, and if I'm asking for some water, get me some water. I'm looking for him to move. I was speaking to Yana the other day. She was at the table, and because I laugh and joke with her so much, I said, Yana, and I said, told her to get me something. So she was dragging. I said, wait a minute now, hold on. Now, I ain't playing at this point. Get up and get me this here. I was expecting her to move. So when God called you, he ain't playing no more. He's expecting you to move. And usually when you don't move, you usually get a chastisement. And nobody don't want a chastisement like God can give you. And see, and then you got to be willing to go through the transition from where you are to where he's calling you to. You can come out and change your geographic position and not change your mindset. In fact, it's easier to move yourself physically than to move yourself mentally. It takes a lot of work to change your mind and your habits and your attitude and get a new strategy and get where you are functioning. In other words, it takes a lot. The Beverly Hillbillies is a prime example. Tell you a little story about a man named Jed. Poor mountaineer, barely kept his family fed. Then one day he was shooting at some food, up through the ground, come a bubbling cruise. Okay, now here's the problem. Jed was used to bug tussle. He was used to the general store. Now he's a millionaire with a hillbilly mentality. They load up the truck and they move to Beverly. They should be riding Bentleys and Benzes and so forth. But instead, they got an old broke down truck. They got a wash tub on the back. They still got homemade lye soap. They're not using body wash. They got a mentality. They're rich, but they got a mentality of poor. They don't know no better because they are in the condition they're in. And the problem is when people come off the street into the church and they dress up, we think that they ought to be in Beverly Hills where they really in bug tussle. And the problem is if we don't come to the mindset of realizing we got to help them change. See, that's what you got to look at when it came down to you had Miss Drysdale who hated them. But then you had Miss Jane who was trying to always help them. I need to know how many Drysdales we got in the church. Don't want you to be their neighbor. Don't want you in the neighborhood. Don't want you to be seen in society because you embarrass them because of the way you act. So now here it go. Look at people who move in private neighborhoods with conveniences and still want outside clotheslines. Don't want to use a dryer. Talking about it smells fresher. And you might be right, but a bounce dryer sheet in a dryer smell fresh, and it's a half day or more quicker, and the neighborhood looks a lot better. Matter of fact, some neighborhoods won't let you put a clothesline up. You got covenants because it make you look country. And so you just came into some money, you just moved into the neighborhood, and you talking about, get the pole digger, we got to put up a clothesline. Stuff, you can tell people that being country, stuff all on the front porch, cars in the yard, no tags on them. That's why when you move in a nice neighborhood, they got covenant tell you, you can't have no cars with no tags, which means they need to be insurable and running. Can't have stuff jacked all up. You start to change the motor 6 months ago and you're still in the yard. You're sitting around, you sit around and you come up with, they no longer have those metal swinging chairs sitting on front porches. Pull up, they got boxes all on the side of the garage, under the carport, and they will tell you now in Black Branch where we're going to eventually build, you can't even have your garage facing certain areas. It got to be secluded because they want that neighborhood. You know how whenever certain people move in, they said, there goes the neighborhood. Because they realize you may have gotten there, but you're not there. So they label you already. It's amazing in a movement, God had delivered the children of Israel from servitude to sonship. That's what the Red Sea did. Until they got to the Red Sea, they were slaves. Yes, they left Egypt, but they were just runaway slaves. That's why Pharaoh had the right to get them back. I need y'all to hear that. When you're a runaway slave, then the master got a right to get you back. See, some people hadn't been saved yet. They come to church, they're just runaway slaves. The devil got a right to get them back. But we got a right to pull them in. I need y'all to hear me. Now, the last few Sundays, last few messages, those are preaching messages. That was evangelism. I'm home now. I want to teach us something to help us get to where God's trying to take us. So I'm not concerned with a shout, dance, or hoop, or a holler. I'm concerned with deliverance on today to get our mindset to a place to bring us where we need to be. So what we have to look at is they have now, yes, they left Egypt, but they were still runaway slaves. And see, some people even though they hadn't been saved, when they come to church, they still got the world mentality. They tired of the condition of the life they've been living. How many came to church and that was you? That was me, for sure. I was tired of the life I was living, and I wanted God to do something about it. You want out from under the condition you're in, but you really hadn't had conversation of conversion. You hadn't had someone to talk to you about conversion. So it put you in the category of a runaway slave. And the slave master is chasing you, and he's trying to get you back, simply because of the fact you're a runaway. Because he will always chase what he still owns. If the devil is chasing you hard in a lot of areas, it's because there's some ownership somewhere. Ouch. The Israelite had put blood on the doorpost, and the death angels passed by them, and in one moment they had went from death unto life. But they still had to go through a process of regeneration. The Bible calls it transforming of your mind. Down at the Red Sea where Pharaoh drowned, it's not just about murder, it's about liberation. When Pharaoh drowned, they was no longer in debt to the master. They had gone through the Red Sea, which represents death, burial, and resurrection. They came up walking in the newness of life. They was a new people in a new life, in a new location with new opportunities and new possibilities, but they still had old attitudes. How could they? Well, I'm glad you asked. 400 years after living with the Egyptians had affected them. Their thinking, their appetite, their attitude, and their food. They wasn't even eating any of their food anymore. That's why when they get out in the wilderness free, they want to go back to Egypt, which is bondage, over some onion and some leeks. After you've been in bondage, hell, 400 years, and now you're used to eating Egyptian food. You talking about, well, it was better off for us back in Egypt. At least we had some onions, some leeks. You used to something that'll make you cry. Taskmaster whip on your back. But you rather go back to that. That's why some good women appreciate good men. But you got some women that, as they used to say, mama and them say, leave that fast girl alone. She ain't no good. She won't treat you good, whatever. That comes off of environment and culture. Sometimes you can be placed in a culture to where all you know is using people. And so a good man, they won't, but they won't appreciate it because the culture. Get what you can get. Use them for what they got. And that may be the very one that help you in your deliverance and in your staying power. But when you don't have no one to help you with that, you keep doing the same old stuff. And so it's something how you can be out of something and still crave it. Is there anybody in here that craves some stuff that you ain't supposed to crave? I know I ain't talking to a real church today. You can be out of something, but you still crave it. Okay, even in a natural diet. I've been recently working on my midsection. I done dropped a couple of inches in my waist, and I'm determined to do it. Got me a contraption that I'm drinking every day with got me some grapefruit and some lemon and some cucumber and some mint and co-pastor she on it, but she realized it dropped a little weight, so she backing up off of it, so she ain't drinking it, but it helps keep your urinary tract cleared up, it's natural, but it tastes bitter. Stuff that's good for you don't always taste good, but it ain't amazing stuff. That's why it's cost you when you go to a restaurant to eat healthy. Baked and broiled costs more than fried. I like fried, but fried will kill you. Too much of it. The stuff that's not good for you is it's not as expensive. So what happens is, if we don't start focusing at the things of importance, and the things of importance is not always pleasurable. And so here we come to the point, whenever I'm trying to drink this stuff, I had a guy to come in. You see the guy the other day, I'm sitting there, he brings in a fresh hot pizza. I mean, y'all just off the street, just come in. I'm sitting there. He brings in the fresh, piping hot pizza. And after I ate a slice, It was just was like, and then, but I didn't drink the Coke. It won't Diet Coke, so I ain't drink it. But I don't even drink that anymore. I had to cut loose. But every now and then, I got a craving for something. And even when you cut loose from those things, there's some stuff I know you can't lift your hand, especially if you husband or wife up in here. Don't you dare lift your hand, and you act like you looking straight ahead and it's somebody else beside you. Because there's some stuff you crave. You'll find out that you still got a taste bud for some stuff you've been delivered from. You still got a desire. Sometimes you done left the club. But every now and then, that's my jam. I remember when. Head start bobbing. You didn't cut on no bobbing switch. It just start moving. Because you remember when. And so watch. Every now and then, your mind go back to those leeks and onions. And God understands that this is a process. People don't understand it. Church don't understand it. Religion don't understand it. The world don't understand it. The media don't understand it. But God understands that change is a process transformed by the renewing of your mind. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. It's like college. Kamaya, you're in college now, right? You got freedom. But guess what? Mama don't have, right now, you curfew and all, because mama ain't there. You can basically do as you want to a degree, get up when you want to a degree, go to what frat, this, that, the other to a degree. And so if you oversleep, you're like, oh man, I got to make this class up. Oh, I hope I don't get, but things have changed because now you got freedom. You don't have nobody to tell you, get up, you're going to be late, this, that, the other. So have you ever been late at all since you've been in college? Okay. Have you been to any parties since you've been in college? Okay. All right. Okay. So my own thing is that because now there's a freedom, but at the same time there's an expectation from the master. How's your grades? How you doing? But I didn't buy this car for you to haul all your friends around. I didn't do this here for you not to have good grades. And girl, you better make sure that I take that car. God to take some stuff. But because we get freedom and we are still slaves to him. But we get freedom, we think we loose to do what we want to do. The Israelite had the wealth of Egypt with them through the Red Sea. Now, here's what I want to prophesy to you about, because I see this coming for 2020. The load was so heavy until they needed their children to help them carry it. And their backs was bent over. They were bent. You ever see these? Every slave movie ain't bad when you see what God gonna do when you see them bent over toting cotton. Because you're getting ready to be toting wealth. You're going to be bent over with the wealth of what God going to give you. I need somebody to catch that in their spirit, because the day going to come to where the Bible said the first will be last and the last going to be first. That God getting ready to flip the script. Look at somebody and say, God getting ready to bless somebody. Their backs were bent over carrying the wealth of Egypt, and which is transference of wealth, that the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the righteous. You got to understand that God was doing something then that scripture was fulfilling, and I see a transfer coming. I wish I had 3 people that could pull down out of glory a transfer that's getting ready to come. You're getting ready to walk within the dominion of what God is about to do. And have anybody ever been broke long enough, down long enough, depressed long enough, worried long enough? I thank God I see a switch coming. I see a change coming. I see a dominion getting ready to come our way. And so when I begin to look at it, God is going to bend your back over with the blessing. Can somebody give him a praise? I'm going to be through in about 4 more minutes. And y'all know I've been doing that lately. Because what I want to do, I don't want to get into where I've got to go for next week, but I want to give you a piece of information here. God is going to bend your back over with the blessing. Not only was they carrying it, but their children was carrying it, which is generational increase. You got to be able to leave something behind for your children besides bills and debts and worries. God said, I don't only want to bless you, I want your cup to run over. Come on here, somebody. Realize that's what God wants. So that everything connected to you can come up under that blessing. Touch somebody and say, I'm blessed. Now tell somebody else that everything around me is going to be blessed. See, I have an obligation to pass something down so you won't have to start with nothing. See, this is why it is, Kamaya, that your mom worked so hard. She want to make sure you have something. Y'all, that's why our foreparents worked so hard. They didn't go to college, didn't even finish high school, worked in the fields just so you could go to college. But sometimes we go to college, become educated and foolish, so they call you educated fools because you done forgot who made a way for you. They got on their knees, they washed Miss Martha floors, and they did all this stuff for Miss Ann, and just so you can go to college. And then you get in college and you don't want to let them come around you because they have broken English, still saying ain't and that kind of stuff. You tell mama, you're going to embarrass me. But if it was not for mama, you wouldn't be in college. And so they trying to leave something for you. They took beatings and all kind of things. Look at those individuals, Martin Luther King and those that had the civil rights movement and so forth. They took water hoses and they got bit by dogs. They were beat by billy clubs. They were pepper sprayed. All kind of stuff just so we can have a right to vote and people won't go to the polls. When you start looking at all of this here, it's a mentality. It's a mindset. And so this is transition. And what God is doing, he's trying to put us to a place that the Israelite have finally woke up free. Miriam have grabbed a tambourine and started beating it to the glory of God. She and them went and danced and they was free. But what do you do with free? We're in a new place. We're in a new position. But how do we function in the condition that we're in right now? This is the key of transition, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching to those things which are before. How do you now function in an executive position after functioning as a laborer all your life? There's nothing worse than putting a laborer mentality into a management position because they often think like who they were, although they are in a new position. Every new step requires a new mentality. In other words, watch this. And now I'm dealing with clergy appreciation. Because when you start dealing with titles, notice I said every title, every position requires new mentality. Then the church got to stop putting pressure on clergy, and clergy got to stop putting pressure on the church. You know why? Just because you become an apostle, an elder, a minister, a deacon, you can get the position quicker than you can get the mentality. It's easy to come up here and go through a class about a year, get you an area shirt and go down to S&J or somewhere and get you a collar and put on. But it don't mean you ready to bust a grape at ministry. It's easy to sit there for 2 years and say, oh, my time, I want to go to another class. Quarterman send them on through this process, and he send you through. You come up, we put oil on your head, and it fries like chicken grease, and you go back and things goes back to the same mentality. Because you're going through process, but you hadn't had change. You got a title, but you're not walking in a position. Now the church expect them to walk in a position, and they looking at you as a church saying, you ought to know better. I shouldn't have to call you. I shouldn't have to check on you. You know about accountability. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. And then you're looking at them talking, I was sick. They didn't even call me. They didn't even come out and check on me. That's supposed to be my deacon. So you got a battle going on in God's house. And then they talk about, Lord, send the harvest. And God said, how can I send the harvest when you're fighting with each other? You got the collar for what? What is this? Y'all remember we used to go and come to church, and now this is back in the day. Get on the choir. After the partied all night, I love to party all the time. And get up there about half drunk with shades on, singing on a Sunday morning. Like Lionel Richie, easy like a Sunday morning. You up there singing, and it was the grace of God that he didn't strike us down. But yet we judge other people. You was a work in progress. God was just tolerating your mess. He knew you were drunk then Cooter Brown. He knew good and well that you had been out and smoked a little something, some snorted a little something, some laid down with dogs and got up with babies or fleas or whichever way you want to put it. He knew all that. But he still worked with us. I want to ask you a question. Why aren't we willing to work with people? Church, do you have an expectation for your ministers? Yes. You got an expectation on your pastor. But then the minister got an expectation on the people. But we're getting ready to find out, and I'm going to put a period there. We're getting ready to stop. Next week going to be a good week. I need you, next week you need hard toe shoes, steel toe shoes on. You don't come in here with no cute shoes. You need some steel toes. Because next week it's going to be tight, but it's right. It's going to be good, Campbell soup good. But it's going to help us. It's going to help. Look at your neighbor and say, next week going to really help you. Tell them this is just foundation. Where we're going next week, it's going to really help us see some stuff. It's going to put us to where God sees us. So let's put a period there. Anybody here today may not be saved, don't know Jesus as Lord. No, this is just introduction. I'm just at my beginning. I ain't even nowhere near through with my rest of my. Anyway, I am excited about what we're getting ready to hear. Was this good for anybody? Anybody here that may not be saved, don't know Jesus as Lord. If that's you on today, lift your hand. We'd be glad to lead you to salvation.